Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for that wonderful remark. Please, as she said, don't forget to get to know the person beside you, around you, in front of you, because that's really what we're about. Thank you very much, Ma. So, the advancement of Nigeria's National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights represents an important milestone in strengthening accountability and responsible business conduct in Nigeria. We cannot have certain conversations without certain organizations, and so we cannot have conversations on business and human rights without the National Human Rights Commission. And so the NHRC continues to play a very critical role in championing this agenda and supporting greater alignment between business activities and internationally recognized human rights standards. And so representing the Commission today on behalf of the Executive Secretary, Chief Dr. Anthony, would like to please warmly welcome Ms. Pwadumdi Okoh, who is the Deputy Director, Legal Services, and also the Business and Human Rights Focal Points Lead at the National Human Rights Commission. Please join me in welcoming her. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning. Okay. I think I'll have to adopt Madam Chair's style. Good morning. Like she said, the weather is not coming inside. Let's be more. Businesses are known to be. When they talk money now all of them go shine eye. Good morning. So I bring you warm greetings from the Executive Secretary. He really wanted to be here himself. In fact, he desperately wanted to be here himself. But you know, when you are the chief executive officer of an organization, you know, there are so many things that drag your attention. Sometimes your mind will be in one thing and another urgent thing will just come up and you'll be wondering, why should I become octopus, you know? But that's why we are one of his octopus. All right, so I bring you warm greetings from him. And he said I should send his regrets why he's not able to be here. An urgent matter came up and he needed to be out of the country. So please, pardon my Executive Secretary, we are here. The Commission is here, right? And when the government and the Commission, businesses come together, there is progress, especially when it comes to businesses, right? Okay, by show of hands, how many government agencies are here? Okay, so now only us, me and my colleague over there. So businesses, we are safe, right? Our rights are protected. You're taking responsibility to protect our rights, right? Good. All right, so let me just stand on the existing protocol that have been established by our darling Stephanie. Good to see you once again. After our last meeting last year, we had a dialogue, a national dialogue that we convened at Sheraton, where we had all stakeholders come together to see how we can implement the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights. Because we don't just want it to be, oh, Nigeria is the third country to adopt the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights. We need it to work. We need people to take ownership of it because we were all together when we drafted it. So let implementation not come now and people are like, it's their thing or it's government thing. No. So as many of you that were there when we put hands together to do it, and as many of you who are not aware, please, let's look at the document and see how we can start implementation from, they say now from the day you know something, now you go begin do something, right? So I just want to throw out that plea now before I give you the good note, keynote address of the Executive Secretary. So this is the voice, my voice, but Executive Secretary's message to the businesses in Lagos, right? So please, if it is good, it is me. All right. Okay, so I want to stand on the existing protocol, like I said before, and also appreciate UN Global Compact for inviting the Commission to be part of this accelerator. Aha, okay. English. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues from the private sector, representative of the United Nations Global Compact Network Nigeria, development partners in the room, and friends. I don't know if there are media people here, but they are our friends. They are very wonderful friends. We can't do without them. Please put your hands together for the media. They're the ones that help to amplify whatever we do. If not, nobody will know us. So we appreciate you. It is the pleasure of the Commission to join you today for this Business and Human Rights Acceleration session. We gather at a moment where when the world expects more than profits from business. It expects accountability. It expects respect for rights and an active contribution to sustainable, inclusive society. The issue before us is not abstract. When businesses respect human rights, they reduce risk. They strengthen their brand and social license, as well as create long-term value for shareholders, workers, communities, and the state. As a commission, we have just 3 points to make this morning. 1, implementing the Nigerian National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights is a shared opportunity for risk reduction and value creation. 2, there are practical steps companies can take to align their operations with the UN Guiding Principles and the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights. 3, the National Human Rights Commission has a defined role, and the public-private collaboration can accelerate meaningful change. So why does this matter now? Nigeria's economic growth and corporate expansion bring complex human rights impacts. Labor conditions in supply chains, land and resource conflicts, environmental harm, digital privacy risk, and community grievances, if left unaddressed. This translates into reputational damage, operational disruption, legal liabilities, and investor withdrawal. You heard when Madam was saying a while ago that the conversation has gone beyond what you are telling investors. They go now to go and see for themselves. They even go to your supply chain if you're using child labor. They go to where you are sourcing your materials to see the people who are working there, how you treat your workers. Sometimes you see people apply for certain grants. On paper, you have very beautiful presentation, and you discover you didn't make it, you didn't get it. You'll be wondering how. They have gone behind to go and investigate. You see some people are blacklisted. You'll be wondering how, but you have good, have connection. It has gone beyond connection. It's gotten to a point where you cannot even export your goods anywhere. You might say, oh, I'm not in exporting level yet. No, but you don't have to say until you get to exporting level before you learn to do the right thing. Because the right thing is even what will propel you to be recognized outside. Conversely, companies that build credible accountability practices gain access to new markets, secure their license to operate, improve employee retention and productivity, and they attract long-term capital. How can we translate respect for human rights into business advantage? One of the things we need to do is risk management and reduce disruption. A robust human rights due diligence process will identify the grievances. I've always told people or companies that when you just get upset because you have an idea that you want to go, even if it is pure water business you want to do, you begin to take risks. Just do a visibility study. Where is your market? What are the people you are going to affect? Do a human rights due diligence. It is then you will now begin to understand what are the kinds of human rights violations that can likely occur. And then when you take steps to mitigate it or put strategies to say, okay, if this occur, this is what I'm going to do. When you have all of those things combined, then you're now ready for business. But you don't think because you just have pocket, you have money in your pocket, you have investor, you get up and say, oh, madam, give me 1 million bags of pure water. Who are you going to use to do those marketing? So human rights due diligence is something that you cannot run away from as a business. It's essential that this process identifies the grievance before they escalate into strikes, litigation, or community blockades. If you consider an agricultural exporter that conducted a human rights due diligence across its smallholder network and discovered labor and transport risk affecting harvest. By the time you address that transport safety, formalizing labor contract, the company had reduced absenteeism. Before you hear, oga trailer fall for the road where they come our house, so where they come out from our house, so I know if it come work today. All of those small excuses that you hear from people will not come up if we are treating them well. Have we experienced that in our businesses? That people will be coming, you'll be calling one emergency is coming up. It is just because they are disenfranchised, they are disenchanted rather, from the way you are treating them. It's an indicator that something is beginning to do kish somewhere that you need to consider. So if you look at competitive differentiation, and brand trust, consumer investors and partners increasingly favor companies with transparent human rights performance. A bank that publishes its gender quality targets and grievance outcome is well positioned to attract corporate clients seeking supplier diversity and ESG-aligned banking services. And by the time you begin to report regularly with measurable KPI signals, credibility improves rating and it keeps companies ahead of their competitors. Access to capital. Institutional investors increasingly require evidence of human rights due diligence, an effective remediation system. Demonstrable human rights governance can lower financing costs and widen the investor pool. One thing people don't understand is that, especially for the people in the banking sector, when you begin to have unreasonable demands on your staff, we once used to hear of a story where when you go into the banking sector, or even the force or certain organizations, you're not expected to get married. And even when you get married, you're not supposed to have children. Very crazy, rules and, regulations that people are just, who told you that the biological clock of a woman is subject to your definition? So when you begin to bring out rules that are not in tandem with human existence, you are shooting yourself on the leg. And you would think you are doing a wise, smart, you don't want to be bogged down by maternity leave or this. But at the end of the day, when it comes to real investment, people will be running away from such banks because you're not human rights friendly. So operational efficiency, when strengthened grievance mechanisms and community engagement, it reduces downtime and negotiation costs, and this can accelerate permitting and expansion process. So what are the practical steps that we can take to implement the business and human rights, are the guiding principle? Now, the NAP has set clear expectations under the responsibility to respect. Like we know, I don't know how many of you know the 3 pillars of the business and human rights framework. Do we know about them? Okay, only one person is answering. Do we know? I can just reiterate. Do we know? Do we know? All right. So the business and human rights framework sits on 3 pillars. First, the government has a duty to protect. Businesses have a responsibility to respect. And then where there are violations, you must set, adequate access to remedy. So those are the 3 pillars. And when you come to access to remedy, there's what we call the state judicial remedy, which has to do with the courts. We have the non-state judicial, the state non-judicial rather, which has to do with people like Human Rights Commission, the Ombudsman, other organizations that are not judicial per se. And then we have the non-state, non-judicial, which has to do with companies. You are supposed to set remedial mechanisms within your organization, so that if there are grievances within your organization, even amongst your shareholders, amongst your supply chain, your customers, if you're able to have remedial mechanisms where you say, okay, if this person is claiming that, it's not that, I don't want to make this, I'm in Lagos, so let me be careful how I make I don't want to complain that I ate your product and it gave me running stomach. And the next thing, instead of you to see how we can resolve the matter amicably, you come and carry me and go to court, or you lock me up. Do we understand? So as a company, you're supposed to set a remedial mechanism, a level remedial mechanism. You don't look as if, okay, it is for the high and mighty. No. And that's why the Commission, in collaboration with the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, have established a mediation center, an African mediation center. So that if businesses have some of these issues, they can actually come to the Commission, and we can actually use that center to do a mediation for companies. All right, so the Business and Human Rights NAP, National Action Plan, has set clear expectation under the responsibility to respect the pillar. That is what I said. That is what happened. That's what for the businesses now, and companies can operationalize them. So we're going to be recommending some of the following steps, for the businesses. Since I'm talking to businesses this morning, one, and that's one thing we are very glad about, is the fact that our brother, the people from NNPC, is NNPC here? NNPC is here? Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. There's something that they did, and which is very instructive. Before, I think, was it before now? We had, they approached the Commission to help them draft their human rights policy, which is a good thing. Let's clap for them. They've done well. But now whether they will operationalize that document is another thing that we don't know. But they are doing well. They have set the step for the right, their step is in the right direction. Because when we did that we did some training for some, what do I call it? We some, what we call, regulators that have remedial mechanisms within them. We did the training for CBN, we did a training for NCC, NOSRIA, and some other regulators. And the essence we did that training on this business and human rights is the fact that they are regulators of businesses, and they have within them the mandate to either revoke, vary, or deny licenses. So in case you don't know that this thing is a serious business, it will get to a point where you will want to file your annual returns with CAC, and CAC will tell you, please, can we see your human rights compliance index? It's getting to that point. So I think the earlier we begin to warm up and do the right thing, the better we are. You will say, there are too many regulations. No, it's not a matter of too many regulations. We are only trying to say, let's learn to do the right thing so that it will help. It's helping you to help us. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that we did that training, and shortly after that, a bureau de change from Zamfara wrote to the Commission that we should help them draft their human rights policy. And so many other companies and businesses are beginning to step up to say, you know what, some of these things you'll say, we don't know how to do it. Can you help us? How do we go about it? And that is why the Commission is here to also help. We are partners progress. Like we say, the document has married us. We cannot marry ourselves. Right? Do you understand? We have been married because there are three pillars. If you carry one pillar out, the table will not stand properly. So the government has its responsibility, businesses have their responsibility, and then we both have the issue of access to remedy. Access to remedy is very essential because we are human beings. We will offend each other. We will offend one another. But the point is that where we offend, we should be able to have steps, clear, accessible, easy steps that people can follow, efficient steps that people can follow to have access to remedy. Okay, so the board leadership commitment, that's one of the how business is one of some of the roadmap we want to recommend. The board and leadership commitment. Boards should adopt a policy endorsing respect for human rights and integrate human rights metrics into executive performance reviews. When a manufacturing firm, for example, they might amend in their own executive scorecard to include reduction in work-related accidents and improvement in supply audit scores. Because one of the things we told NNPC was the fact that, you see these your tankers that are driving your petrol all the way to the Kutunkuruchi, the inner Korokoro of Nigeria. If you do not train them and make them understand your human rights policy, when they commit outside, you will be liable for whatever actions they have taken. So it's essential that companies not just only have a human rights policy, but also train their staff, their supply chain on this human rights policy so that everybody will be on the same page. So another roadmap we want to recommend is map human rights impact across operations and your value chains. Work with Commission to conduct a systemic human rights impact assessments covering your operations, suppliers, and affected communities, not just direct employees. Participatory human rights impact assessment that include community dialogues have led companies to revise resettlement practices and update compensation policies. When you discuss, it's not this, oh, we signed MOU with one company, especially for those who are in the extractives. We signed MOU with this, and then I've had cause to hear stories of where a community was given, how much was that? Is it somewhere in Edo State? A Pamoya community, 10,000 naira scholarship for each person. And you know, at the end of the day, that 10,000 naira doesn't get to the people. 10,000 naira is already ridiculous on its own. It's already ridiculous. But you can see what they have reduced our people to. You know, they have weaponized poverty. And that is why we need to stand up and say, no, we are better than this now. This resource control is meant to help us, not to impoverish us and imprison us. You know, so let's prioritize salient risk and embed responsibilities. When you identify your most severe risk, assign clear ownership and integrate mitigation plans into your core business functions, like procurement. Madam said something about procurement. You know, we are getting to a point where before your procurement bid can scale through, you need to show us that you are adverse to issues of forced labor, child labor, you know, environmental degradation. These are beginning to be indicators that people are looking at before your procurement bid, technical bid, or whatever the name they call it, will proceed or scale through. So we need to be aware of some of the intricacies and what is involved in this. And then we need to strengthen your supplier due diligence and contracts. You know, it requires human rights clauses in supply contracts, build capacity for smaller suppliers, and make continuous improvement a contractual condition. That you must always improve. You know, they said knowledge has a decay factor. When you talk today, if you don't talk tomorrow, the person might likely forget. So have something that will always remind people. It can even be like, you can even put it in front of your company board or whatever, so that anybody comes as you're coming to work every morning. Or you can sing it like a jingle. It's ringing in your, if you have a big company now, it will be ringing inside. Have one system, one speaker in your office where the thing will be singing like your values. So that as your staff are coming into the organization, they are hearing and they're imbibing that this is what you stand for. You know, so that by the time they commit, you tell them, oh, yo, it's not that you're not be hearing it. Okay, so if you leave me, I will talk from now to tomorrow. So let's also ensure living wages and decent work. Conduct periodic wage assessments, eliminate forced and child labor, improve working conditions and hours and pay overtime when you can, and support collective bargaining. Do not force things down the throat of people. You know, a cocoa company that introduced wage top-ups and worker savings program across its upstream supply, saw a measurable reduction in turnover and improvement in productivity. I'm giving you some of the key examples of some of the things that, this roadmap has caused in some sectors. Protect land, environmental and communities. Adopt a rigorous environmental management plan. Apply free, prior and informed consent. One of the things that this document also specifies, especially for those who are into extractive, is that you don't just go to Abuja and get a consent to go and explore. Or you're looking for minerals, or looking for gold, and you go to a community and you say, oh, I've already gotten a license from the top, from Oga at the top, or from where? If you go, your life is also at risk. There's something we call free, prior, and informed consent. Don't just go there and say, oh, we'll do this, and you hide the major things that will affect the environment. Underneath, you don't let them know. Disclose it. Let them know the risk of your business in their community, so that they can now decide, say, okay, Oga, you are coming to do better thing in our community. We welcome you, and they will work with you. Rather than you giving them sketchy information. At the end of the day, when the hardship begins to come, you now disappear. Because there's something now that we call environmental remediation fund. I think under the PIA. So you need to make that funds available, especially for those who are going into the extractives, so that in the event something happens, and I don't know how many of you have heard about the Zamfara lead poisoning. So something like that happens. People are suffering. Generation after generation are suffering. Sicknesses that you cannot even explain where it's coming from. They can be taken from that fund to at least be treating them. If not, we're really not doing ourselves good. Okay, so how can the National Human Rights Commission help us to succeed? Because that's one of the roles we are here. We want to help us to do the best that we can. The Commission has a unique role in enabling private sector alignment with the NAP. Our functions are complementary. We protect rights, monitor compliance, advise government, and provide credible independent oversight. So clarify expectations and guide companies. We will issue practical guidelines notes that will translate business and human rights provisions into sector-specific checklists and templates. This is already work in progress. For the agriculture, extractive, manufacturing, and the ICT sector, we are also developing a concise human rights due diligence guide for SMEs. We had sent out one initially in collaboration with the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and including supplier code templates and grievance flow frameworks to lower the entry barrier for smaller firms. We can help build capacity. We offer training for corporate, legal, compliance, procurement, and CSR teams on human rights due diligence, mediation and complaint handling. The Commission has offices in all the 36 states of the Federation. We have one in Lagos here also. Joint workshops with the UN Global Compact, industry groups and civil society to bring, diverse perspective, to corporate practice. We also work with companies to create or endorse non-judicial grievance mechanisms, to align with the effectiveness criteria of the UN guiding principle. We are also ready, to partner. Like I said, we've already partnered with Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry to have a mediation center. We also help develop voluntary benchmarking. One of the things I want to say now, I thank God Mr. Ode is here. There's some time that we will send messages to you and say, okay, we want to do a benchmark. We want to develop the tools. We want to see how far you have fared so that we will know where to help you from. And then we will send letters and you won't respond to us. You're not doing yourself good. You're already shooting yourself on the legs. Because by so doing, you're telling us, people are disturbing me too much, are disturbing us too much. But what you are doing inadvertently is the fact that you're telling us that you're not ready to, what did I used to say it? Move to permanent site. Okay. So what we try to do when we send letters that, okay, there's a benchmark, tool development coming, and we want to assess how far you have fed. If you never hear them, talk, say I never hear them. If you have heard it and say you have not done anything or you don't know how to go about it, talk it, say it. If you see something, say something, okay. Whatever that means. But the thing is that we are here to help. We are here to partner with you to progress, to proceed, to succeed. But if you don't talk it, if you don't say it, how are we going to know where it is paining you? So that we can know how government can partner with you to make things better. So when we send out invitations and letters to say, okay, let's come together and do this, please let's cooperate because it's for our own good. All right, so we can also convene multi-stakeholders conferences like to address specific sector issues. And then we will work with government also and other regulators to align labor, environmental, and corporate governance laws with the National Action Plan obligations. So now we're going to say a call to action. What do we want us to do from this month? Stephanie said, when you get to the office on Monday, what do you intend to do? And my own is a call to action. Business leaders, the path forward is clear. Make respect for human rights a strategic pillar, not a compliance afterthought. Boards must own it. Procurement and supply chain managers must implement it. Communications must be transparent. And operations must measure, report, and improve. So companies here, presented here today, will offer 3 concrete steps that you can take this year. 1, commission a focused human rights due diligence on your most salient operations or suppliers and publish a short remediation roadmap within 6 months. It's doable, right? Is it doable? Is it doable? Adopt or adapt a supplier human rights clause and pilot it with 5 to 10 strategic suppliers, providing training and upgrade support. Sign an MOU with the commission. That's the first step, right? Sign an MOU with the commission to design or endorse a grievance mechanism tailored to your sector. We are available. You know, so I know there are no other institutions here, so I will skip that one. So conclusion, business and human rights is not a philanthropic extra. It is a strategic imperative. When companies anchor their operations in respect for human dignity, they build durable trust with workers, communities, customers, and investors. The Commission stands ready to work with you, to advise, to convene, to mediate, and hold parties accountable in ways that are fair, transparent, and oriented towards remedy. Let us treat this accelerator not as a token exercise, but as a genuine launchpad for practical, measurable change. Together, we can turn Nigeria's business and human rights action plan into a competitive advantage that sets a regional standard, safer workplaces, empowered communities, resilient businesses, and a stronger economy. Thank you very much.